In the merciless sheets of rain that hammered New York City on a late October evening, billionaire Alexander Reed's matte black Maybach lurched to a violent stop in the middle of a busy midtown crosswalk, tires hissing against wet asphalt. Through the windshield wiper's frantic sweep, his gaze locked onto two figures huddled under the weak glow of a malfunctioning street lamp. His ex-wife Elena Morales, 38 years old, warm olive skin now sallow and drawn, long dark hair plastered flat against her neck and shoulders, wearing a threadbare charcoal gray wool coat 2 sizes too large, faded navy jeans soaked dark to the knees, scuffed black sneakers splitting at the seams, and their 9-year-old daughter Lily, small frame. Shivering violently, curly chestnut brown hair matted and dripping, fair cheeks blotched red from cold, clad in a once pretty cobalt blue cotton dress now clinging wetly to skinny legs, thin white socks visible above worn pink sneakers, clutching a soggy piece of cardboard that read in child's uneven handwriting, "Please help us eat tonight. God bless." Alexander's heart seized so hard he gasped aloud, the wheel slipped from his suddenly numb fingers. This was the wife he had divorced in a cold courthouse 10 years earlier and the daughter he had never held, now reduced to silhouettes of desperation against the neon blur of Times Square. The realization struck like lightning. One photograph from any of the dozens of phones already turning toward the stalled luxury car would ignite a media firestorm capable of cratering Reed Enterprises stock by double digits overnight, wiping out billions in market value and triggering shareholder lawsuits. But the deeper, more visceral terror was personal. He could lose them both forever. Child Protective Services could swoop in at any moment. Elena could vanish into the city's underbelly again, taking Lily with her, or worse, the fragile thread of this unexpected encounter could snap before he even had the chance to speak. The single, searing question consumed every neuron. How had Elena, the fiercely talented painter whose sunlit laugh once filled entire rooms, whose hazel eyes could hold entire galaxies, whose olive-skinned hands once painted dreams onto canvas while he watched in awe, fallen to this? Why, in a decade of silence, had she never once reached for the lifeline he could so easily have thrown? He shoved the car door open and stepped into the deluge, rain instantly soaking through the fine wool of his charcoal suit, turning his black leather Oxfords into sodden weights. "Elena," he called, voice cracking on the second syllable. She lifted her head slowly, rainwater streaming down her face like tears she refused to shed. Recognition hit her like a physical slap, her full lips parted, breath fogging in the cold air. Lily shrank against her mother's leg, green eyes enormous. "Mommy, who is he?" Elena's jaw tightened, but exhaustion had already eroded her defenses. "Alexander," she said, the name flat and heavy. He dropped to one knee right there on the filthy sidewalk, ignoring the gathering crowd, the honking taxis, the rain that stung his eyes. "I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know it had come to this. Please, please let me get you both warm. Just for tonight. I'm begging you." After an eternity measured in heartbeats, Elena gave the smallest nod. She gathered Lily against her chest and let Alexander guide them to the car. Inside, the heated leather seats felt like sin against their chilled skin. Lily's teeth chattered audibly. Elena wrapped both arms around her, staring straight ahead. Alexander drove in silence broken only by the rhythmic slap of wipers and the soft hiccup of Lily trying not to cry. When the private elevator opened directly into the penthouse, soft golden light spilled across marble floors and modern art that suddenly felt obscene in its sterility. He moved quickly, thick Turkish towels, cashmere throws, a call to his 24-hour concierge for child-sized pajamas, women's loungewear in Elena's old size. He had never thrown away the measurements, hot chicken noodle soup, grilled cheese cut into triangles the way Lily liked. He had memorized that detail from one fleeting, court-mandated video call years ago. Lily ate with the focused intensity of someone who had learned hunger as a constant companion, then fell asleep almost instantly on the guest-room king bed, small fingers still curled around the edge of the blanket. Elena lingered in the doorway watching her daughter breathe evenly before following Alexander to the living room. The gas fireplace snapped softly. She sat on the very edge of the sectional sofa, hands knotted in her lap, still wearing the damp coat like armor. You left when I was 30 weeks pregnant, she began, voice low and steady. You said the Singapore deal was make or break. Then it was Shanghai, then Frankfurt. Eventually I stopped waiting for the plane to land. She paused, swallowing. I sold every canvas I could. Waitressed double shifts. Cleaned offices at 3 a.m. so I could be home when Lily woke up. Asthma attacks cost thousands we didn't have. Galleries stopped returning calls. Rent went up, then the landlord changed the locks. I sold my wedding ring 6 months ago for $200 and a bus ticket to the city. We've been couch surfing and shelter hopping ever since, until even those doors closed. Alexander sank to the floor in front of her, elbows on knees, head bowed. I told myself you were better off. That my world would swallow you whole. Every time I closed a deal, every time the numbers on the screen turned green, I felt emptier. Your last painting, The Vineyard at Dusk, is still hanging in my bedroom. I look at it every night and hate the man staring back in the mirror. He lifted his gaze. I never stopped loving you, Elena. Not one single day. Something cracked behind her eyes. She reached out, hesitant, fingertips brushing his damp cheek. I hated you so much it kept me alive some nights, she whispered. But seeing you on your knees in the rain tonight. I don't know what to feel anymore. He covered her hand with his, pressing it to his face. Feel whatever you need to. Just don't disappear again. They talked until the fire burned low, regrets, small memories, the way Lily once said "Dada" to a photograph because Elena never let her forget his name. When words ran dry, Elena leaned forward until their foreheads touched. Their first kiss after a decade was tentative, trembling, tasting of rainwater and grief and tentative hope. It deepened slowly, hands rediscovering collarbones and wrists and the familiar curve of jawlines. They moved to the master bedroom without a word, shedding wet layers like old skin. In the dark, under heavy duvets, bodies remembered what minds had tried to forget, the exact pressure that made her sigh, the spot on his shoulder where she liked to rest her cheek. They made love with the urgency of survivors, tears mingling with sweat, whispers of "I'm sorry" and "I missed you" repeated like prayer. Afterward they lay entwined, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. But when pale morning light crept through the blinds, Elena rolled away slightly and pushed up her sleeve. Faded scars, thin white lines crisscrossing the inside of her left wrist, stood out against olive skin. There's something else, she said quietly. The real reason we ended up on that corner. It isn't only poverty. There's a debt, and people who collect it with interest that isn't money. Alexander's blood turned to ice. Tell me who. Tell me everything. Her voice shook. After you left, the studio was hemorrhaging cash. A friend introduced me to a man who loaned money no bank would touch. I paid what I could. Then the interest doubled. When I missed payments they started following me, banging on doors at midnight. I ran, new city every few months. But they always found us. Last time they smashed the windows of the shelter we were in. That's why we were on the street. I thought if we stayed moving, stayed visible to the public, they wouldn't dare. She broke off, shoulders heaving. Alexander pulled her close, fury and protectiveness roaring through him. They will never touch you or Lily again. I swear it on my life. The weeks that followed were a deliberate, almost sacred reconstruction. Alexander cancelled international trips, delegated board meetings, turned off his phone for hours at a time. He took Lily to FAO Schwartz, watched her eyes light up at the giant piano, bought her first real art set, enrolled her in a private school where the art teacher recognized Elena's name from old gallery catalogs. Elena returned to painting in the sun-drenched studio he had built overnight, walls of glass, north light, every supply she had ever dreamed of. Her hands shook the first day, then steadied as color flooded canvas again. Alexander stood in the doorway watching the woman he loved reclaim her gift, throat tight with awe and gratitude. One crisp Saturday they drove to the Hudson Valley. Lily ran ahead through fallen leaves, arms wide, laughing. Elena slipped her hand into Alexander's. "Remember our first picnic here?" she asked. He nodded. "You wore that yellow sundress. I proposed with a plastic ring from a gumball machine because I was too impatient to wait." She laughed softly, the sound he had ached for every night. They spread a blanket under an ancient oak. Lily built leaf piles while Alexander pulled Elena against him. "I want forever this time," he murmured into her hair. Their kiss was slow, deep, full of promise. That night, back in the city, after Lily was asleep, they danced barefoot in the living room to old jazz records, bodies swaying, hands roaming, rediscovering every inch with reverence. Later, in bed, she traced the faint lines around his eyes. "You look older. Tired." He smiled against her palm. "I look happy. There's a difference." But peace was fragile. Late one Thursday, after a gallery opening where Elena's new series sold out in 40 minutes, Alexander found an unmarked envelope under the penthouse door. Inside, grainy photos of Elena and Lily on the street corner, a typed note demanding $100,000 in unmarked bills within 72 hours or "the press gets the full story," and more. Elena went white when she saw it. "They found us." Rage surged through Alexander, cold and precise. He called his security chief, his legal team, former intelligence contacts. Within 48 hours investigators had names, addresses, bank routes. Elena insisted on being part of the plan. "I ran for years. I'm done running." They staged the drop in an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook. Elena carried the decoy bag, hidden cameras rolled, SWAT waited 2 blocks away. When the collector, a wiry man in a cheap leather jacket, stepped forward, Alexander emerged from shadow, voice like steel. "You're done here." The man sneered, until cuffs clicked and flashlights blinded him. The entire network unraveled in the following weeks: arrests, asset seizures, front-page headlines that painted Alexander as the avenging protector rather than the villain. When the last warrant was executed, Elena collapsed against him in their living room, sobbing with relief. "It's over?" He kissed her temple. "It's over." Spring arrived soft and forgiving. Alexander launched the Elena Morales Foundation, grants for single mothers pursuing the arts, emergency housing, pediatric asthma clinics. Elena's career reignited, museums requested retrospectives, collectors fought over new pieces. Lily grew taller, more confident, her drawings now signed with proud looping letters. One golden June evening Alexander chartered a yacht off Montauk. As the sun dipped toward the horizon he led Elena to the bow. Lily waited nearby holding a small velvet box. Alexander dropped to one knee, holding the original wedding band, cleaned, resized, now engraved inside with "Forever, Round 2. "Elena, I lost the best part of my life once because I was arrogant and blind. I will spend every breath making sure I never lose it again. Marry me. Again. Stay with me. Let me love you and our daughter the way you both deserve." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she laughed. "Yes. Yes, Alexander. Yes." The second ceremony was small, private beach at golden hour, Lily in a white sundress scattering rose petals, a handful of trusted friends, vows spoken with voices thick with emotion. "I promise to choose you every day," Elena said, "even when it's hard." "I promise to be the man you always believed I could be," Alexander answered. Honeymoon nights in a cliffside villa became a quiet symphony, long talks on the terrace wrapped in blankets, slow lovemaking that felt like worship, mornings watching Lily chase waves while they sipped coffee and planned a future unshadowed by fear. Years later, looking back from the vantage of a life rebuilt, Alexander understood that true fortune had never resided in balance sheets or penthouse views. It lived in the small hand that slipped into his during walks, in the way Elena's eyes still softened when they met his across a room, in the laughter that echoed through rooms once silent. Love, when fought for with humility and unrelenting courage, could mend what ambition had broken. Redemption was not a single grand gesture but 1,000 quiet choices, to stay, to listen, to hold on. Cherish the people who matter. Fight for them with everything you have. Because in the end, they are the only legacy that outlasts marble and gold. If this story stirred something deep inside you, if it reminded you of love worth saving, forgiveness worth giving, or a second chance worth taking, please hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters. Thank you for letting me tell it.